Hello, hello. Happy Sunday and welcome back to the UpSet podcast. We're so happy that you tuned in this Sunday evening. And when I say we're, I'm talking about this phenomenal crew we have right here. What's up, guys?
Howdy.
Hey,
Glad to see you.
Yep.
Yes.
good to be
Glad
back
see you
live.
place
Good,
one more
good to see Pat again.
Yes. You made it back to the other side.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So how was it, Pat? I mean, I know you've been asked that 1,000 times, but why not one more?
It's life changing, absolutely life
Mm,
changing,
Wow.
absolutely.
I
I,
believe
Tell
it.
the people where you were, Pat. Tell them where you were.
Botswana, they are offended when you just say Africa. It's not just
Yeah.
Africa.
So
Right.
hard.
Yeah.
Continent.
It-
Yeah.
it's Botswana, and the people are just amazing,
Yeah.
amazing people. And got to see elephants in the street, giraffes in the street. There's no
Wow.
reason to go to the reserves, and village people, real village people, that makes us with a full bank account look poor.
Wow.
Um, and
Wow.
and for them, who family for them is what's is finances. It's rich.
Did they
Mm.
sing YMCA?
No, not then. Um,
Uh,
I don't know. But definitely. I like to take cruises, Europe and all of that. But no, I'm gonna do the Kenya, the Ghana.
yeah.
Uh, I got to see what that's all about. Life changing, life changing.
Man.
Awesome.
I'm glad you
Awesome.
got to enjoy it, man.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
No
No,
place like the motherland.
not at all.
Yeah.
And hi, Mary. Right? Thanks for
Yeah. Hey,
giving us
Mary.
a good evening. Yes, we are live. We miss being live, you guys. We love interacting with you
Yeah.
live. So we were happy to come
Being
back.
dead isn't nearly as much fun.
No. Yes, I agree with Miss Jillian here. She said we missed you last week, Pat.
I'm
And I
here.
got to meet.
I was almost on the show. I mean, and then the electricity
Yeah.
in my went out. That was it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what you told us. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it did happen like right before we went live too, right? But no, I got a chance to meet our faithful viewer
Jillian?
Jillian yesterday when I went to West Philadelphia Church. So she introduced herself. I was so happy to.
Jillian is she is a unique Christian woman, and having I consider her a friend and sister, but having had the privilege of being her pastor, she came to the church to visit with her brother at one point a few years back, and she said the Lord. She came back to my office, said the Lord told me to come into your office, and we talked for a while, and somehow or another got around. So what do you do? She says, I'm an enrolled agent for the IRS, and at just that very moment, I needed IRS help.
Wow.
And she,
Look at that.
I mean, and since that time, look, I have seen the Lord work through Sister Jillian more than once, and she is a
Yes.
true Christian woman, and
Yeah.
Now I know.
Jillian,
Now
always.
I know who she is. As soon as you said IRS, I knew who she was. I tried to bribe her on many occasions.
No.
Yeah, she doesn't work for the IRS.
Right.
She
right.
is simple. She is registered with them, and I'd been making phone calls for weeks. And I stood at her desk, and she picked up the phone. In 3 rings, somebody came on the phone. I said,
Oh, it's great to have those connections.
"Oh, yeah, Chevrolet Honda."
Chevrolet.
So,
Okay.
I
All
thought
right.
she was keeping you from being arrested.
she was. She was. Trust me. Yeah, I would have been your point person in prison ministry if she hadn't come along.
So good evening to Mike Williams. Thanks for being here. Hi, Miss Daphne Bolden. And
Hello.
also hi to Jocelyn. Thanks for
Hey,
tuning
Sister
in.
Jocelyn.
And everyone else that's there, but not in the chat. Great to have you all join us. So guys, it's been an interesting week.
Mm-hmm.
Like very interesting week.
Yeah.
A lot of people shot for no reason.
Yeah.
I will give a positive report. I
Okay.
had the privilege of being involved with the planning and the convening of the 5th most recent State of the Black World Conference that took place in Baltimore, Maryland. It was extraordinary. I mean, I'm sitting with the man who had been elected president of Uganda, but had been deposed by Museveni, and so now he's considered president in exile. Sitting with the gentleman who was a king out of uh, ooh, I forget which nation it was. The former Prime Minister of Jamaica, P.J. Patterson. There were just so many people from all over the world, from the African diaspora,
Mhm.
and all of us were not talking about what bad happened and how bad the world is and what the white man has done and all that. They
Mhm.
were all talking about solutions, and not only talking about it, giving examples of progress that's being made all around the world.
That's right.
There was one gentleman there who was a native Nigerian but working in Silicon Valley, and he is in one of the teams doing artificial intelligence and talking about how, listen, artificial intelligence is based upon what you feed the computer. The
Mhm.
people who don't know your culture are feeding information to the computer. Artificial intelligence will misuse you
Mhm.
or mistreat you, and so you got to make sure that you're a part of it. And it was just a
Wow.
great. It's a 5-day conference. I've been there since
Mm.
Wednesday, and
Wow.
so just got
Wow.
back this afternoon. So it was just great to be with our people in a healthy, progressive,
Mhm.
positive environment. I'll never forget
Yeah.
it.
How many were in attendance, Sally?
Ooh, wow! I mean, I guess 1,000.
Okay.
And from all over at
You
different
know, it's
times.
invite only, right? Invite only.
No, anybody could have come. It was, the word was out, but it didn't get out everywhere, I imagine. But there were people
Mhm.
from all over the country. I was talking to a young lady from Omaha, Nebraska, talking to a young lady from New York, a gentleman from down in Texas. So, it's just
Mhm.
great. It was really good.
Good. That's awesome. Can't
Yeah.
wait to
Yeah.
hear what comes out of it.
We have to embrace technology as a people. And I see Rodney's comment about, I hope AI doesn't take my job. Listen, we need some artificial intelligence evangelists. We need
Now I
'em.
wonder what that will look like.
Yeah.
Ah, hello,
Listen, they
Joel.
got Chat GPT that will write a whole sermon for you.
Yep.
That is true. I mean,
Mhm.
artificial intelligence can write a sermon for you.
Wow.
And
Yep.
what's really bad is if it's better than the ones that you're writing. That's really bad.
Yeah, a little bit more cohesive, huh?
I just don't know if a computer knows how to say.
If
You
you
were right
program
with
it,
that.
if you
Oop.
program it well, it will.
I
Yep.
guess you got a point there. Yeah.
That is true. That is true. And not to get off our high, but I know Marlene, you were mentioning the
Shootings.
shootings. And before we get into that, it was funny yesterday. After church, I had plans. Our family had plans to go to someone's house, our friend's house, for Sabbath dinner. And had the address and everything. Got there, first time going to the house, and I saw the number on one house and I saw the number on the other house, but the particular house that I thought was theirs didn't have the number, so I wasn't sure. And I couldn't believe how much anxiety
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had. I was like, this is even Andre, my husband, he was like, why are you going to ring the bell? Are you sure? Are you sure? I'm like, this is crazy. When did we get to the point where actually
Right.
ringing a doorbell solicited so much? Like, I was like, oh my goodness. And I rang the doorbell and I heard a dog barking and I got scared, guys. I got scared. I'm like, I don't think they have a dog. I don't think they have a dog. You know what I mean? I'm saying this is the world in which
Yeah.
we live, where something as simple as
Yeah.
possibly ringing the doorbell
Yep.
on the wrong house
Yeah.
could be fatal, or it could
Shot.
leave you wounded. Yeah, I
And
mean,
listen, is it safe for us to do evangelism that way?
There
You
we
know what I'm
go.
saying? Knocking on people's doors and being the
mhm,
wrong person in the wrong neighborhood.
yeah,
I'm thinking about how we grew up. That was a game, like you play hopscotch.
Oh,
Or
ring the
it was
doorbell and run.
ring the doorbell
yeah,
and run.
run.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to
It
call it
was a
doorbell
game.
Dixie in Philly. Yeah.
Really. And now you're thinking
Do
you
that
bring it
now.
now, you're gonna lose your life over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, just hearing that whole story with Ralph Yarl and even the other stories
Turning
with
in the driveway. I mean,
yeah, Kaylin Gillis, her, just turning around, leaving, exiting the driveway,
Yeah.
and getting,
And there was another one down in the Southwest that occurred.
yeah, Peyton Washington, I think is her name.
Yeah. It's
In a
just,
shopping supermarket parking lot. Like these are places. This is not a case of, well, in some cases being at the wrong place. I mean, these are people who don't have any negative intention. You know what I mean? They're just
yeah.
doing things that any of us would be doing.
and the
And
cheerleaders. What was
right,
it? Cheerleaders, I think they were.
That's what I'm thinking of, the cheerleaders.
yeah,
Yeah.
got into the wrong car, and there's some. And how many times have we done that, guys? Can you think about how many
That's
times you've
just
like,
like my car.
I've
Yeah,
never gotten
I've
into
done it.
anybody else's car.
or at
Allie,
least approached it? You
I've
know, maybe
attempted.
not gotten it.
Allie
Yeah,
rented a car once. I left from the Chinese restaurant, went back into another car that wasn't mine, sat down in there and trying to figure out why it's not starting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've
They
done
say
that.
those pork rolls will do that to you.
Yeah. Well, I'm converted now. I don't eat.
Okay.
yeah.
Last
So,
week.
oh, it's sobering, but
Yeah. Well, the fact is that we have created a nation, a
Yes.
culture that is so fear based
Right.
that people feel like I must get you before you get me. We
right.
have turned the Lord's mandate around: do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. We have turned it to do unto others before they can do unto you.
Yeah.
And having gone through that looking glass, we're now reaping the whirlwind, and we have to
Tally,
create a new culture.
It's true.
Tally, in Botswana, no one carries a gun.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one. I mean, I was like, what about police? They don't carry a gun. I mean, so, and I try to figure out, well, how do you keep law? How do you keep the law here? How do you keep, it's just not in their makeup to carry guns. It's not, and I
when I was there, they had
I was more worried about a lion eating me.
Well, I mean, I know this may be off, but do lions? I know you said giraffes and other animals will walk through the streets. Were lions? Could they prowl into neighborhoods at night?
Yes,
Oh,
no doubt about it. Yes,
Oh my goodness.
but they're not interested in eating humans. It's not. I don't know why, but there could like you could have a whole bunch of elephants come into the street is because the lions are chasing them out into the streets.
Oh yeah. Well, I tell you what, they may not be. I used to hear that story about there are no poison snakes in Delaware. Like, I mean, how do the snakes know when they get to the Delaware line?
Right.
That's the same thing I feel about the lions. You get out there and that lion look at me and say, "Oh, that boy looks like a big old snack, don't he?" I'm sorry, I'm not taking the chance.
Oh, mercy. All right, guys. So it's time to jump into our topic for this evening. Now, April has a lot of emphasis, like is autism awareness. I know we talked about that last year. We had Joe as our special guest.
That was what a great show that was.
It was one of our favorites.
I'm sorry, I got to tell you.
Go ahead,
Joe was on the airplane, right? Joe came with us.
Wow, man, that's beautiful.
It's so many stories. The Botswana men do not do dishes. So Joe goes out there and says, "You got to do dishes." So now I'm going to teach you all how to do this. And
changing culture, huh?
With the village women, and people are taking pictures of him doing it. But he got on the plane, and it's quiet on the plane. He sees this man on the plane, and he runs up to the man and he says, "I know who you are." And looking at him like, okay. And Joe's hugging him. Joe, how Joe's hugging him, and he sits back and he says, "Who am I?" He says, "You were the one that was falsely accused of killing Malcolm X." And he said, "Yes, you're right."
Wow.
That's amazing that he recognized him.
Wow.
I know I wouldn't have.
So the rest of the plane is looking at him like, and I looked it up. He had just won a $32 million from the state of New York for falsely accusing him of killing Malcolm X.
Wow.
Now, does Joe have, because I've heard that many people who are on the autistic spectrum, some of them have a level of specific recall or the
Yes,
ability to.
we call it his superpowers. His superpowers is history.
Okay.
Mm.
So when we were in Istanbul, he was with the Islamic worshiping with them. He knows all the prayers, all of that. Yeah, so you know,
Mhm.
Joe has that history thing. But
Hey,
I mean,
make
that was for the
What a
autism
great
side.
story, man.
yeah,
That's
make
Yeah.
make sure you keep traveling with Joe. Good things
Yeah.
Yeah,
happen.
you can point out people.
beautiful.
Wow.
But yes, but there's also another area that's highlighted in the month of April, and that's financial literacy.
Hmm.
Hmm.
All right, I gotta go.
I was gonna
See ya.
say sometimes this is not a topic that people are anxious to talk about because for some reason money is just one of those subjects that make some people feel very uncomfortable. One, I mean, it tells you a lot about yourself, and in some cases a lot of people struggle with finances, and it's like not something that people want to readily deal with at times. As a matter of fact, I was watching, I just happened to be flipping on the TV this afternoon, and I saw Netflix has this series. I think it was like how to be rich or something like that. I just started watching the first episode, but even from watching the first few minutes, there were so many couples, which I thought was interesting, who don't talk about finances because it's such a sticking point in their relationships that they just avoid it altogether.
Hmm.
And I was thinking to myself, how many people, not just couples, but individuals, just avoid it because with it comes so much stress. Last week we were talking about stress. So, but we're not afraid to tackle this subject of financial literacy. And we really want to look at some of the ways we as Christians almost create. Come back in the room, Pat. Can't avoid it. Sometimes, even as Christians, we create blessing blockers by some of the philosophies that we adapt as it relates to money, and even use the Bible to justify our reasoning for some of the financial decisions that we make. So, we're going to kind of deep dive a little bit into some of those. Now, before we discuss them, though, I want us to give ourselves a grade. This is to you all as well, live audience. In terms of personal finance, if you would say, if you were a 10, we want you to rate yourself. You're 10, that means I'm fully aware of what I make, what I spend. I'm on top of my goals financially, and I'm where I need to be. You're a 10. If you're a 1, that means things are totally out of control.
If you're one, you're not watching this because you don't have internet service.
Things are totally out of control. You're worse than paycheck to paycheck. You're like, maxed out credit cards.
Natalie said already she's a 1. I'm just a 1.
I want to see where we are because I'm reading some of these stats about the average American, and it's reading some of these stats can make you feel pretty good about where you are. I have to say, I wanted to read a couple of them just to give us some context. In terms of debt, of course, we know debt is one of those things that America itself is struggling with. But the average amount of debt that people have is $155,000.
Whoa. Is that including mortgage?
No. There's another line for mortgage, which is $207,000. So this is like a combination of like credit cards and student, not student loans. That's even separate.
Student loans is not included.
Student loans. Well, it breaks it down. You know what? It breaks it down that student loans, the average person has $59,000 in student loans. That's the average balance. So of course, there's some people who don't have any, but there are those who have way more. So the average is like $59,000. Auto loans, $28,000. And then credit cards revolving is like $6,000 for the average person. So, so the debt is coming from all different kinds of places. 14 million Americans have over $10,000 of credit card debt to pay off, and about 46 million have outstanding student loan debt. So, these are just a couple of things that a couple of statistics, and I'll share some more later. But I wanted to see I don't see any numbers. Come on, people. No one wants to be vulnerable with us and let us know where you are.
I don't know. I don't think I'm telling either. I know I'm not 10.
Listen,
Definitely not number one. But
I would say I'm near 6.5.
that's
I
pretty good.
mean, I have never really paid the appropriate amount of attention to my money, and I will tell you, I am the most shocked person on earth because I was always the youngest. I was the youngest ordained minister in Allegheny for a while. I think until Steve Richardson or something like that, and um, I was always the youngest. And then I looked up one day, and I wasn't. And the next thing I knew, I was, the first shock comes when you get that AARP card in the mail. Man,
That
that's
comes
humbling.
at 50
Man.
now. Yeah, that comes at 50.
Yeah,
Comes at 50, and
starting early.
and then what happens is you get this letter saying, "Listen, you got to sign up for Medicare." And man, I'm thinking Medicare. What? I was waiting for somebody to send me an order of stewed prunes and lime jello. I mean, all of a sudden I'm the old guy, and at now I'm 66, and it hits you. You realize that I didn't look out for myself well, and
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you mentioned us. Go ahead. Go ahead, Pat.
I'm glad that you're able to look at yourself at 66 now and say, man, the time just passes, okay? Because I was 40 yesterday.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I look at some of the stupid expenditures on
Yeah.
into over the past 10 years. And I look back at it and says, that's some old.
Please don't say it.
Yeah.
He's still employed.
Your first semester.
I mean, and honestly, it is.
I know it rhymes with pulpit, but it ain't.
It's regret that I look back now, and I hate to say this, but if I didn't have my parents who were smart enough to leave something
Yeah.
for us, we could have done better if we just simply said, let me put this away, let me put that away, or let me spend it differently. I'm starting now with myself at 6'7". I'm starting now. Why? But I should easily be up at 9 because my parents were always at 10.
Mm. Mm. And that's interesting, Pat, because a lot of people, based on how they were raised or their environment surrounding money is what they adopt. And a lot of people are behind because of what they saw or what they didn't know because it was never taught to them. So that's interesting what you're saying, that you had the perfect example.
But here's the other side of it, Tosh. Could it be that my parents spoiled us? You understand what I'm saying? Because we didn't have school loans. We didn't have any of that. They paid for everything. You understand what I'm saying? And this is their money, by the way. This is not mine. They got houses. They have estates. But my mother always sat down and said, Patrick, we start here with the Lord's money. The old composition books, not Excel, not all, the black marble. And she would write, the first thing she write on it is tithe. The next thing is her is offering, savings, and whatever. And she lived by that. And so I'm right where you are, Tally, where I feel bad that I'm not at 9, 10 when my parents were up there.
Gave you such a great start.
Oh, definitely.
Now, talking about where Christians go wrong with finances, one of the things even those statistics are not where they should be, but with tithing, sometimes Christians get tithing right. Like, we got that 10%. Woo, we turn that in. We're good. We feel like we've checked off that box. We're faithful stewards. But then when it comes to that 90%, where we feel like it's in our hands and we can do what we want to do with it, that's kind of where a lot of us as Christians go wrong. We feel like as long as we've given our 10%, that's required of us, that we're off the hook. But we're learning more and more about stewardship, how it's not just that 10%. We are still responsible for the 90%. So a lot of us struggle with budgeting. Dun, dun, dun. People hate that word.
Well, Tasha, and in many's defense, once you give your tithes and offering, you're gonna be blessed.
That's right.
So why should I care about that other percentage? I put my trust in God.
But I also want to say in others' defense, I mean, like Pat was saying, I wished I had learned earlier. I mean, I learned later, about good finances through how many of you went to Financial Peace University, right? And just taught your churches. I learned so much, but it was after I had spent a lot. And I look at people, their 90 may not even be that much. Because I was looking at how, the country was fighting just to give people $15 an hour. $15 an hour is not that much. I mean, when you have to pay your rent or mortgage, I mean, that's a big chunk of your money depending on where you live. And then you have to, your daily responses of gas and food and buying the children clothing. And God forbid you try to put them in Christian education, that costs a lot of money. It
Yeah.
is not that much. And once they take the taxes out of the $15 an hour, it looks like 31,000 a year. You're only getting like 20, 23, 24,000. It's not a lot of money. So once you sacrifice giving your tithe, you only have that little bit of money left, and it's already all spent. So it takes a lot of discipline to
Yeah.
even just put something away, to talk with someone who's in finance, where you can put something in a good place so that it can grow. I think our people need to keep hearing it over and over
Mhm.
and over.
Mhm.
And once you get a credit card, I'm surprised that the credit card debt is 6,000, because when I had credit cards, they weren't
Revolving, yeah.
that anymore. It was 19,000,
Mhm.
20,000. It was a lot of money. And I said, I'm never going to be in debt like that again. And so it's important for us to teach people now while they're young, put a little
Yeah,
something aside while you're young right now. As you're
yeah,
working, you can have, a million or 2 million by the time you're 55, 60.
Mhm.
yes,
So
Mhm.
it's understanding to use what you have. And truth be told, we don't get paid like a lot of other people. I mean, before I became a pastor, and I'm not putting down my pastoral salary, but as a physical therapist, I was paid real well. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I look at still others were being paid more than me,
right,
Mhm.
because I'm a
right.
black female. So my white male counterpart, they were getting way more than me. So just think of other professions where people are really still struggling. So
Yeah. Yeah.
See what
I
Rodney put in there?
Susu,
The susu, yeah.
Susu.
yeah.
Yeah, man. I hear you, Rodney. And one of the things I wanted to say that Rob Patterson is in. He's the
Yeah, I
treasurer.
was gonna say that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
Treasurer
now?
I saw
of Bermuda.
Rob.
Treasurer
He,
of Bermuda. Oh wow.
Congrats.
Okay.
Congrats, Rob. Since
I thought he was still in Florida already. All right, Pat.
Nah, he's leaving Florida. So now my daughter's leaving Florida because I had him babysitting her, living
She has
right.
no
Both
oversight.
leaving. But I wanted to ask Rob, what is the average tithe that he sees? What's the average tithe
Yeah.
that we pay? I always heard 30 or 30 something 30-ish percent. That I wonder what it really is. I wonder what it is. I'm sure he'll
Rodney
answer.
said tithe and offering. So yeah.
Right. And offering.
But something you were saying, Marlena, about people not having a lot. One of the things a lot of financial advisors are seeing, and even this couple I was just watching on that documentary I was telling you, there was a single income family that made $24,000 a month. Single. This is one person working 24,000, and they were spending 27,000. So sometimes it's not even about how much you're making, it's what
Right.
you're doing with what you're making, because sometimes people think the answer is I need more income, I need more money. But if you don't have those management tools and you're not, reviewing your finances, you can still blow through that. I mean, I was thinking about if I made $24,000 a month, but they were still in debt, well, they weren't in
yeah.
debt, but they
They
were
made
still spending more.
24,000 a month.
A month. And this
Oh
is
wow.
one person, one person's income. Okay.
Wow.
Pat answered you. He said this is just
33%.
show that 33% return tithe.
That's actually not. That's not. When it comes to the constellation of churches, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad. You're exactly right about that. A 30%, 33% is not bad, especially in our churches. I think what my mother taught me is that the 10% is holy. This is my mother, and the 90%. It's and so
What was the 90% now?
that the 90% is holy also.
Yeah.
So she just said this one is for God and this 90 is for God for me to do whatever I need to do for God. So if you have that concept that everything that you earn belong to God, you're also going to be careful on how you spend it and why you spend it. And I also think, I don't know if you're going this way, producer, but when you're married, it takes two to tango when it comes to your finances also, which is, you know, you know, I make a certain amount, I make the same amount that Marlena make. And, our counterparts are, make a whole lot more than we make. And they may not have the same, what's the word I'm looking for? They may not have the same drive as you have to save or whichever. So you got to be able to find that balance. Tally, the next person that you marry, will help you move from 6 to 7 to around
Yeah.
9.
Yeah. Look, yeah. I mean, and I'll be honest with you, when I was married, because my former wife she was a bottom line kind of person, a very logical, linear person, and so she did focus on that. And I will readily, as a matter of fact, she would get my check because she managed it better. And but when I went through the separation and divorce, because I had a daughter, I had to become a better manager. And I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know how I made it through a couple of years. But then
God kept you.
It's God, man.
well,
Each man is God.
yeah, okay,
I said, okay.
What are those
I hear
words?
y'all.
Felt like I was out there by
I
myself.
talk. Look at God. Yeah, I'm looking at him. I remember telling God one time, I said, "Look, you can keep all them cattle on them hills. I don't live near the hills, and I don't eat beef. I need some money." I mean,
He gave you help to make money.
Can I be
Well,
can I be honest? What we're working on now in my household is living off of one income.
That's what Rodney was just saying here. Yeah.
That's now what we're trying to do or trying to do. Botswana helped. So so let's keep
Simple
rolling.
living. Yeah.
Simple living.
Yeah.
We are consumers. That's
Yes.
all we are.
we
We
are
just consume
We're built on
everything.
that.
conspicuous
And
consumers.
yes. Yeah.
One of my friends recently said to me, "We have to learn to live simply so that others might simply live." And I had not forgotten that.
yeah.
Yeah, let me just ask a question. I mean, because there's some internal tension because the idea of wealth is not something that appeals to many Christians.
That's right.
I mean, the hymns. And I noticed when I became the director of faith-based initiatives for the city, and I go to white churches, they didn't sing a lot of the hymns we sang. I never heard a white congregation saying, you
Lord, I
know,
care not. Lord, I care not
I'd
for
rather
silver.
have Jesus than
That's right. Lord,
silver or gold. They didn't sing that hymn, you know, or take the
Right.
whole world and give me Jesus. No, no, no. Them hymns, I started singing one of them hymns. They say you need to go down the street where the Negroes worship. I mean,
We accept gold and silver
Lord, I
here.
care not for
yeah.
riches nor silver nor gold.
Yeah, I mean,
Get out of
so
here.
that's and I know that I have been infected by that. Just this past week, and I don't know if I'm embarrassed by it or not. I gave back $400 because I felt like I hadn't earned it. Somebody gave $600 for a service, and I said give them $400 back, because I didn't really earn it. Now I'm wondering now, was that God giving me money and
You turn it
and
around.
I'm turning it down because I've done that before, and
I want to say yes.
and I know that there's something that says poverty is holier,
Yeah.
and the Bible does make some points about wealth, and is that something that affects us, Latasha? I mean,
I think some people, but sometimes I think, guys, that we use scripture to back up some
Bad
of our
behavior.
negative thinking. Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
fits like, oh, I don't have a lot, or I'm not seeking a lot because, the Bible says XYZ. But there are also scriptures in the Bible, like I was looking at something like Deuteronomy 8:18,
Say
which
that
says
again. What's the name of the book?
Don't do
Deuteronomy.
that to her.
Okay.
Don't do that to her,
Oh,
Tally.
Deuteronomy. Am I saying it wrong?
No,
Yes. Don't do that to her.
It's okay. It's all right.
Deuteronomy?
We know what you meant.
Deuteronomy.
What do you say, Deuteronomy?
If she
No.
says it again wrong,
Deuteronomy. Emphasis on money. Let's go.
money.
no. Please read from the book of Deuteronomy to Mimi.
Cut it out. I'm like, wait, did I write it wrong? No, okay. Deuteronomy. No, it says, but remember your Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to your ancestors as it is today. So I mean, there's so many other scriptures we see where we should be the lender and not the borrower. There's so many principles in the Bible that talks about having wealth and what having wealth allows us to do as Christians, but we focus on the ones that cause us to live these humble lifestyles, and that's I really don't see. I mean, look at our Father in heaven, and sometimes we say that He owns
hear
the
this one.
cattle on 1,000 hills, not me. You know what I mean? We say we don't deserve it. That's a God thing, but we're the children of God. I mean,
So we should be rich.
We can be, yes.
There's
sure.
nothing wrong with
But
having riches.
post Rodney Grissom's last comment, the last one he just put there about
That's foolishness. The most faithful God's father. Yeah.
we're filthy. Yeah, like
had
John the
somebody else.
Baptist. I mean, John the Baptist just rolling in money. When he got arrested by Herod, he hired what's the guy? If the glove don't fit, you must have quit.
Come on.
Johnny Cochran.
Johnny Cochran. Yeah, because John the Baptist, who was a faithful follower, he was
So
just.
he qualified it. Some of the most.
And then there was Jesus. Jesus was, okay, my good brother.
You can't get Tally.
Rod, you see, Rodney, you can't play with
But no.
Mr. Tally. He'll trip you up. But what I want to say too, when you're faithful to God and you bless His people, He will bless you. I mean,
He will.
He'll give you monies
doesn't
coming
mean
out
money.
of everywhere. He will, Tally, and He gives you so that you can continue to bless His people, and He gives you more. I am a witness. As a single woman, I have 2 houses that by in no means I would have been able to purchase, because God just kept giving me and giving me. And it's what you do with what He gives you. When you're responsible, He will give you more, especially when you're blessing His people who do not have.
All of the apostles were relatively poor.
Yes.
Work with that for me.
What Tally?
First,
it
was their profession too. In their profession,
they had the same profession we got.
No. I don't fish. I don't fish for nothing.
No. They gave up fishing. Remember, they gave up fishing.
Right. But I'm saying even before. So before they followed Jesus, they had,
they weren't rich then.
Jobs, right? Because they didn't have college educations. They weren't trained.
All I'm saying is after becoming apostles, they were all relatively poor.
Right. But that doesn't mean we have to be. You should say
I didn't say we have to be.
Right, but that's what some people think.
There's this existential statement that if you follow God, you do what God said. He's gonna give you. You're gonna have more than. I just don't think that that's always true.
You'll have everything you need.
He always provides.
Well, I think sometimes
that's a whole lot different.
Sometimes we limit abundance to monetary,
right?
Yeah,
not just
thank you, GP.
And,
yes,
holistic balance. So I think there's a place for wealth. There's a place for us to be financially good stewards of all that we have, but at the same time we can't allow money to run our lives.
Right.
So got to find that balance. But there's nothing wrong with wealth, nothing wrong with investing, nothing wrong with managing what the master has given us. Yes, I read the Sabbath school lesson last quarter.
One thing that's funny to me, and the biggest influence that I've had over the past 2 weeks, I'm going to continue to talk about it, and I never want it to fade. stopping in a village where the mother, the father, the grandmother, the grandfather, the cousins, everybody live in the same village. That's their wealth.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so when they see us coming in a van and hopping out, they look at us as wasting because their investment is having a heifer and a bull. That's
Oh.
their investment. I'm really serious about this.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And when they have 2,000 cattle in the field and they're Adventists, they don't have money. What they do, they take 10% of the cattle and they sell the 10% to give to the church. I'm talking about Adventism. They give it to the church. These villagers are Adventists, but they don't deal with cash in their hands. But the build that they have is that they could go across and send their grandchild over to grandmom to learn from them. Their biggest wealth is family.
Yeah.
So, and health, by the way, and health. Health is big out there. So to me, it's not that I don't want my truck and I don't want my house and I don't want all of it. I feel that in the past 10 or so years, I've spent money so that other people could see me as favorable. That day is
Okay.
over.
Mm-hmm.
So you said bye to that Tesla?
No, I don't want to say.
And say all that.
The day just came back.
I think God has called me to send kids to school,
Yeah.
Nice, Pat.
to pay tuition for kids to go to school. I've just learned, when somebody die, I hate to say this, then you find out all the good things they've been doing.
Mhm.
My parents have been sending kids to school without us knowing, not that we had to know. But to me, God bless you,
Yes.
even
Mhm.
health, even with good health, with a good sense of mind when you return. My parents return tithe in time also,
Okay.
but that's just how they are.
Mm-hmm.
I sense, and what GP is saying and sort of what Pat is saying, when it comes to bank accounts and wallets, I'm not a man of means at all. Now, I mean, the Lord has allowed me to do much better at this point in life than I have before. But but I don't have big bank accounts or anything like that. I have pensions, and I'm probably going to be able to eat an upgraded brand of cat food in my retirement.
Oh my goodness.
But when it
We'll
comes
bring you a
to,
sandwich, Tyler. We'll bring you a
I'm
sandwich.
dependent on it. I'm dependent on it.
It'll be our first upsetter.
But when it comes to friends and people who love me and care about me, I am the richest man that I know.
Mhm.
Amen.
Influence. I'm extremely wealthy, but I think we make a mistake in especially when we look at the Old Testament. The Old Testament is representative of a relatively immature perspective on God.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I'll say that and back away from it. I mean, for example, the Old Testament extols violence. Blessed be the Lord who teaches my hands to do war. I mean, the Old Testament extols slavery. Look, Abraham is blessed. Here's a guy who takes a woman into slavery and then makes her his sex slave by allowing her to become, quote, his wife. And then when she falls out of favor, he sends her off into the wilderness. That's horrible. So I'm saying that the Old Testament perspective on life was not necessarily a very elevated and
Tally, please
evolved
take us to the
perspective.
New Testament. Please take us to the New Testament because that's dismal. Take us somewhere
No,
else.
no, no. I want you to fix it because God does all things well and for a reason. So fix it, Tally, so the people,
Yeah, somewhere else.
the people of God.
Right now.
You say, well, the thing is that and this is one of the problems that we're having. Ministers used to pattern themselves and model themselves after Jesus and the apostles, servants,
That's right.
willing to give, measuring themselves by how much they can serve. Today's ministers are measuring themselves by David and Solomon, and they see themselves as being regents, potentates. And so they talk about Solomon, how much money Solomon had. And that is not the perspective on what it means to that level of godliness is relatively immature. Uh,
Wow.
you're talking about people who were coming out of slavery in Moses' day, where God had to come down in a mountain and set the mountain on fire and shake the earth and threaten their lives, because they were slaves. The same God moves up to Isaiah where he says, "Come now, let us reason together." He
Right.
goes a little further with Jesus where he calls them friends. But
Yes. Yeah.
so we have to make sure that we don't look at God through the prism of people's who understanding of God was not
Right.
necessarily that evolved. I'm in
Wow.
trouble now. I'll
Yeah,
stop.
you are.
Yeah,
You
you're in
Told
are.
you to fix
trouble
it.
because
I'm in trouble
God was
now.
always faithful and always willing to
Yes, but our
forgive and
perspective on that faithfulness
recognizing
has not always been mature.
Mhm.
Can
our
can I
perspective. Yeah.
can I move this a little bit over because I really wish I was GP. When GP had his baby,
He's like, he did.
I'm
You can
sorry.
be GP again. You're back from Botswana.
It's almost a kind envious. Like I wish I was his age again.
Yeah, I do
35
too.
is, yeah,
Hindsight is
20 years ago.
2020.
GP, how old are you? You're like 22?
35, 35,
35.
35.
Really 35?
Dead serious,
Yeah.
going on
Okay,
36.
okay, 35. And you look great, honestly. When I look at 30, if I can go back to 35 years old, I remember 35. And let's just bring it back to where it was. I remember taking a loan off of my house for a project,
Hmm.
Mhm.
and the project went bad.
Wow.
Right? I remember there was a certain guy, a man that was supposed to read the Bible, and he left the deal. I remember right now in my right mind, I would never take 20, 30, 40. I took $60,000 out of my house.
Wait a minute. This
This,
is like a tape recording of the Bible reading?
yeah, like Tally reads the Bible, right? But he was better than you, Tally, right? So I end up wasting $60,000, right?
That's a tough one.
No, but hold on one second. Look at the time frame. At 35, when I was 35, we're not talking about MP3s and all that type of stuff. We're talking
Cassette
about
tapes.
these, right, of Bible readings, right? And I'll tell you the person when we get in the green room, and then you'll understand that it would have been lucrative if it went down. The point I'm making is that we make dumb moves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You put $60,000 into it?
Yeah.
He's still going to that 60.
Don't,
Yeah.
don't listen to Tally.
I mean,
man. Just
no.
give me
You know what, Tally? It hurt back then.
It hurts me now.
Tally, just 2 years ago,
Read the Bible.
I took $40,000 and put it in a restaurant that I have not received a dime back for.
Wow.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So I want you to understand that.
The amazing thing is that you had it. That is what I'm applauding, because I didn't have that kind of money.
Pat, you're
But
going to get a few emails after this. Like, I think I can get Pat to invest.
and yeah, Tasha, you're right about that. I was always looking for whatever was going to be the next thing that was coming around in order for me to make money from it. And so, but I'm not there now, and that's a year. I believe that God has given me the mindset to make money or to invest and do well in it. But God has to humble me not to take that money and say, okay, let's try to get more. Let's try to get more. Greed takes over after a while.
Mhm.
Once you see your bank account start to climb and climb and climb, you have to start looking at it as either play money or know what you fit. Because if you don't know what you want to do with it,
I was going to say.
you end up becoming greedy, or you end up wanting to put more. I'm the type of guy that when I had $150,000, I put $150,000 on black. I'm saying that in a quick way.
Yeah.
There are people, Lena, maybe Tasha would say, okay, put 20 on here and put 20 over here, put 20 over here. So I'm saying God has blessed me to be able to accumulate wealth, money. The question is, I have to be blessed enough and humble enough to say, save this, that, and the other. And I think that's the lesson that God is bringing me through. I
I
believe
heard
that's
why.
Yeah, the key is to have a plan.
that's
You
it.
know, and one of the
Mm.
things about riches and wealth is it's not the same for everybody.
Right, right.
You know, we look at rich as a certain dollar amount or wealth as a certain
Ooh,
dollar amount, but it's
Jillian.
really about the quality of life that you want. You look and say, what do I want out of life? What do I want to
Yep.
be able to do and accomplish? When you're able to identify those things and you figure out what will I need in order to make those things happen for you, it could be way lower than someone else,
True.
based on what
Look
they
at
have in mind.
Jillian. Look what Jillian said
Yeah,
just
give
now.
money a mission.
Yep.
Give
And the
money a
essence of that
mission.
is you don't work for money. You get to the place where money is working for you.
Right,
There
right.
we go. There
Yeah.
we go.
And that was a question that Rodney had asked earlier. And I know we had done a show um a while back, I think our first season, on investing. So he was asking us our thoughts on investing. I personally have started doing a lot of more research on it. And you know, I'm dabbling in it. I'm learning. I'm investing. You know, I like you, Pat. I wish I had started so much, so much earlier. I think about how much I could have compounded by now. You know, but hey, take what you know. But my goal now is to pass it on to my children early. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, hey, I may not have
Right.
gotten that early, but now I can pass this on to my children and help them learn some of the things that I didn't.
But
Can
also,
I can I
as to when you save in mutual funding, I mean, I know I have a mutual fund account. They, you know, invest your monies in various little
Mhm.
accounts to help it grow for your retirement.
Right.
So, I
Yeah.
think we have to be wise while people are telling us not to do certain things. You know, that leaves us to being poor, not being able to take care of ourselves in the end. The ant even stores up for, you
yeah.
know, the winter, right? So we have to be very wise. And let me say this real quick, GP, before you go. The
Mhm.
reason Pat was able to do a lot, he owned a house, you know, therefore you could take equity out, you know, and do
Mhm.
Right.
certain things. And I
Right.
want to say to all of you, don't sell your houses. If anybody is calling you to buy your house,
That's right.
don't sell it,
Mm,
That's
because
right.
that's how you make wealth, through your housing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they prevented us, right, from getting housing. Remember redlining and things like that? You couldn't
mhm.
own
That's
a house.
right.
I don't care what phone calls you get. If they keep calling, just say, you have to be mean. No, I'm not interested. I'm not
Yep.
selling you my house. Keep your house, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
That's how.
And Marlena, let me give you another one. Cut those doggone credit cards. They're
Oh
not.
yes,
They have nothing. They just won't work.
yes,
Mhm.
Just cut them. Just come keep one or two, like when you want to rent cars or whatever the case may be. But credit cards will never, ever. You'll never get out of debt with that if you keep going.
Yeah.
But you're right
Yeah.
about the house. Go ahead, GP. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go
When
ahead.
Tasha was talking about passing it down, only um, 27% of African Americans have a will.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Less
long
than
in time.
30%. So basically, when we pass away, we don't have a plan where our assets are going. And unfortunately, family has to cuss, fuss over our leftovers or fight a third party
that's right.
if it goes into probate or to the
Probate.
city,
Yeah.
and then someone
Mhm.
else can scoop it up and make a profit on your initial asset. And so it's important for everybody to have a will, you know, start a trust so that if you're no longer around, it doesn't just go to a random white guy
That's
who can
right.
profit off of it, but it can
And
stay in your family.
and the
And
other side of that, GP, is leave something for your
Your
loved
family.
ones. Yeah, I mean, because that's another thing I'm seeing. You know, people have that whole I had to struggle, you're not getting my money, you know, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You know, there's some people who don't feel like it's important to leave something behind for those who follow.
they should
Uh,
not be starting
And
from zero.
And
Right.
Pastor Rodney is asking a question, but doesn't the Bible says to leave an inheritance to your children and your children's
Yes.
children? That's what that means, to make sure if you kept a good life that you leave some for them. Now, I mean, I know we hope that our children are in a good state of mind, you know, that they're not wasteful, but maybe you can leave some management, you know,
Right.
some people
Stipulations.
manage that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But I think it's important to leave them something.
Yeah. And you can put things in place to say they only get a certain amount, or if they meet these certain requirements, that's the only way
Right.
it'll be distributed.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's always ways to get around that.
Our stipulation is that if we fight, we get none.
Really?
It is stipulated in our estate that if I'm going to fight Paul, or if I'm going to fight Gary, or if we're going to fight about it, the executor of it says you get none.
Okay.
That helps you guys get in line real quick.
Who's
And
the
that's
executor?
right
Do you
there.
know who the executor is?
Of our will?
Yeah.
Of my mother's will, I mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
I'd like to hire on for that.
We plant seeds. Okay, so we have. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to share some of the comments in the chat because some of you are sharing some good tips here. You were talking about not using credit cards, but Donna was saying that credit cards give its user a % of what they spend. Just make sure you're not having revolving balance. Credit cards are good if you know how to use it. And that's in terms of using it, getting the points, getting whatever the extra money, but paying it off, not using it as money you don't have, but knowing you're going to pay it off by the end of the month so it doesn't gain interest. So
most people don't have discipline.
Yeah, I know I don't have that discipline, so I don't.
I think that the church has to take some responsibility, especially for ministers, because I know that we were discouraged from buying a house when we were younger ministers.
Really?
And one of the reasons I left, and I say this with a little bit of bile in my throat. One of the reasons I left is because when I was trying to buy the place where I live in a condo now, and when I was trying to buy it, it was really hard to get what I needed. It was really hard. I finally got it, and I'm grateful to get what I needed, because I needed just a little help to get what I needed. But at the time that I was doing it, a friend of mine in Baltimore who is not an Adventist called to tell me, he said, one of your pastors is buying my house. This is in Baltimore. This guy's not an Adventist. So one of your pastors is buying my house. And I said, who? And he said, I can't remember his name. And I couldn't think, because I didn't know any Adventist, pastors who had moved to Baltimore needing a house. I found out it wasn't one of our pastors. It was someone who worked for the North American Division in the Department of Communications. And I have the letter because he sent it to me. The General Conference gave him $30,000 to help him buy the house. And I discovered that if you're at a certain level in certain areas, they help you get houses, help you establish wealth.
Must be nice.
But that as a lowly pastor, you don't get that.
Is that an old rule? It has to be. I see.
This was 2 years ago.
No, she's talking about the discouraging for getting houses. Right? Yeah.
Oh, they don't discourage it now.
No.
They don't discourage it.
In 2004, maybe I shouldn't have called out the date.
That's 19 years ago, Pat, Before you I know sometimes it seems like
I had to ask.
Now, Pat, now.
I was scolded for not asking permission to buy a house.
Yeah.
Because I didn't ask.
But within this last decade, that's not.
They still don't encourage it. They put it like this.
I don't know.
If you are paying more rent, they will give you an assistance. They will not do that to help you get a mortgage.
They don't do that anymore.
Well, I remember they were doing everything. Told you that they did not want you to be independent financially. Everything told you that.
They want you to be ready to up and move in a quick minute, but you still couldn't put your property up for rent. I mean,
marry a wife that plays the piano and teach.
Yeah, I mean, but when I heard that, there were two things that really made me, grease my exit point. One was when I realized that they were, and this guy he wasn't a minister. He was just a worker. He was not an ordained minister. And he got money through the General Conference from our tithe dollars so that he could get this house. That was the first thing. The second thing was when I was talking to an intern who was pastoring a very small church in the DC area, whose check was bigger than mine after 40 years in ministry. And I realized that was some backwards construction of remuneration. And I said to myself, this is not right.
Yeah, I definitely think that has shifted. I mean,
that wasn't that long ago.
No, I mean, I'm talking about in terms of. Well, I don't know
I'm
about
on my daddy's record.
That's not within my jurisdiction or my purview, but I'm just saying. I think
an intern 3-4 years in.
First, I want to say that I feel a funny way about this 19 years ago thing. I mean, I feel a certain way about it.
I'm a tea drinker,
I'm just
Benny.
telling you, it's weird to think that saying 2000 something could literally be like 20 plus years ago at this point.
Yeah.
If I was smart, I go back again, buying my house in 2003, 2004, with gifts from DuPont Park. That's how I bought my house. They
Mm.
gave me gifts when I left there. I was able to buy my house. I should be looking at paying off my house now instead of the mistakes that I made along the way now. I'm just saying that because I want somebody who has a house right now who's thinking about hitting it. What do you call it when you say we hit a house? Like,
Taking
When
the
you hit
equity?
a
You mean
what you
taking,
said?
taking the equity?
Taking money off of it. Yeah. Yeah. See, I'm still a New Yorker. When you hit your house, take money off of it. Don't do that.
oh,
Pay
No.
off the house and use that
That
as
house
leverage.
off.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That money is in your pocket or invest
That's
in
right.
whatever you do, make it grow. Yeah.
It's a long-term investment.
well,
That's
it's
Yeah.
right.
nice to say those things, but when your children need braces and they got to go to school, and the pastor gets up and say, "You got to, the Lord needs what you have, and some of you need to take out second mortgages so that the house of God."
No.
And
So
I
thank you.
mean,
I did that.
well,
Sorry,
people
sorry,
measure themselves by sacrifice, and so
sorry, EC Ward, we ain't doing it because
let me tell you,
that's how Oakwood was built.
that's how Ephesus was built. That's. I mean, most of our black churches. That's how Ebenezer was purchased.
Yep. People took out
Most of
second
our black
mortgages.
churches were built by members taking out second mortgages, so that because collectively they wanted to advance collectively what they could not do individually, and so that became an issue,
Yeah.
and it still is an issue, I think.
Yeah, I know we have to end. I just wanted to show a couple more. Julian was saying churches can get involved by having a will making seminar
That's
to
right.
help their congregants. And I think that's
That's
a good
right.
idea. And Mike Williams was saying that they had a lawyer come and talk to their members about saving your property from gentrification and getting it back if it was taken. So there are things that the church can do to help promote financial literacy. For members. So, instead of just those campaigns, the building funds and the return tithe.
Before we end, I'm not going to get away with the first question. Natasha asked 1 to 7, and only Tally and myself answered.
That is true.
I'll answer.
Hey,
Right now, I'm like 6.9.
Okay, that's okay.
I want to say I'm
You're
very
pressing on the upward
educated.
way.
I'm not in a lot of debt, but I'm trying to increase my saving. I do have my I have a will. All of my stuff is out. I told my sons don't try to kill me because I'm worth more dead than I am alive. I've got people looking out should they try to hurt me or something like that. They just laugh, But maybe I'm 6 or 7, something like that.
What's his name, Marlena? What's his name?
My sons.
Oh no! I was thinking somebody else. It's okay. We'll go ahead.
No,
We'll move
my
on.
son.
So rough.
I mean, the important thing, Marlena, is did you spell my name right when you put it in the will? That's the important thing.
I think I left one of those L's off, I didn't Ali Pharaoh. I didn't write all of that out.
Yeah.
Tasha, you didn't give your number.
I would say I was sitting here thinking,
12.
I created the rubric and
11.
No. I would say 7.5. I mean, I feel like I'm much better place than yeah. I mean, just on the right path, on the right trajectory.
Might have to mug her myself.
No, you'll be disappointed.
Well, I have a project that's going to help me get over, and that is I'm going to be reading the Quran for Muslims, and if I can just get somebody to invest a little something, then it.
It's terrible. You can't speak truth to Tally. Never give him your testimony. Never. That's why I'm not a preacher anymore.
Find a youth man who can just believe in me enough.
I can see Tally at Wednesday night.
Tally. In the past 7 months, my house has gained about $20,000. So talk to me afterwards.
Oh.
Listen, we're trying to help people make wise
investments.
My first pastor was Pastor Paul Cantrell at North Church, an old wise gentleman, and I remember him saying one time, I never forgot it. He said, "Tell your money where to go, so you don't have to ask it where it went." And I keep that in mind.
I'm
I
glad you
like
said that. I was just about to ask us all to share one money tip or one money lesson that has really motivated us or changed how we see money. So Tally gave his.
Yeah, one thing for me, pay that house off before 30 years. I refinanced at 15 years, and now one of my houses will be paid off in 9 years, and I'll use that to pay the other off so that everything I'll get, it's a also a retirement investment for me. So
hold on, Marlena.
Okay.
that's all right. Your wife's going to kill you and get the insurance. You'll be all right.
Oh, what about you, GP?
If you don't learn to master money, it will master you and be your master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I guess mine, I don't know. I have so many, but I think the simple one of living below your means, meaning just because you make it doesn't mean you need to spend all of it. Like, so, you know, whatever I get, trying to put some aside and not use that as my budget for distribution. Although every dollar should have a job. That wasn't every dollar should have a job. Don't let money just sit in your account, because that's where we waste a lot of money not knowing where it went because it's just sitting there.
That's right. When I could actually get my man to read the Quran, and I could go ahead
Oh, Rodney shared one from the late Sandy Robinson. If your upkeep is higher than your income, then your outgo will be your downfall. So that's a good one.
Wow.
I remember that one.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Pat, did you
Pat
share
didn't give his? No.
Yeah, I was going to say, before we close.
I think Pat's
Pat's learned a lot.
Don't take out money on your house.
You know what not to invest in.
You can't beat God's giving.
No matter how hard.
I think Pat's is, Bible readings for the home.
You know what? Mine is simply save.
Yeah. Plan for rainy day.
You don't have to consume all the time. Save.
I wish I had learned more. I wish I had done better.
It's not too late. You got still blood in your veins, buddy. Put it.
Yeah, when you know better, do better. So don't beat yourselves up. And I think that's what we want to share. I mean, that's one of the reasons we talked about this today. We all can do better. And
take your ring off.
Oh, my bad. I mean, Tally.
Horrible. But no, we're hoping that through this episode we've inspired some of us to take a look at your finances, see if we are truly being good stewards. Let's not be discouraged by the mistakes that we may have made in the past, but let's continue to press forward and allow the way the Lord has blessed us to allow us to bless others.
That pastor coming out, Tally. You hear the pastor?
No. Which one?
Exactly. And there was another scripture I did want to end with, Ecclesiastes. Did I say right? Ecclesiastes?
Yes. Deuteronomy. Yeah.
I ate that one up, but 5:19. And it is a good thing to receive wealth from God and the good health to enjoy it, to enjoy your work and accept your lot in life. This is indeed a gift from God.
Amen.
So, we thank our audience once again for tuning in. It was great to be back live with you. Yes. We want to remind you to shop the UpSet store. Thank you to those who have bought their bundles. It seems like the bundles are the hot item. People are buying the mug, the t-shirt, and the cap. Thank you. Don't forget to take a picture of you with your UpSet stuff and send it to us so we can shout you out during the show. And I'll put the links to the store in the chat after we're done, so you can grab it there. But thanks for supporting the UpSet. Don't forget to email us if there are questions or topics that you want us to cover in a future episode. You know where to do it, upset@aecsd.com. If you want to check out some of the episodes you may have missed and check out the store, you can also go to visit aec.org/upset and catch up with some of the episodes and shop the store. So Thank you, guys.
And in the store, you will have my first tape, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Oh, this is a question. I can't. Okay, I just throw that up there. But
I saw it.
the government's gonna open its own bank. Somebody else said we should have our own credit
Yeah.
unions
Own
earlier,
credit
too.
unions. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Brother Trevor, who just asked that, has a little understanding because the church that he was a member of, the West Philadelphia Church, used to have a credit union.
My church at home
Wow.
also.
Yeah.
My church in Bethel in New York, we have a credit union.
But and I've discovered that most of those churches in our denomination were connected to immigrant populations.
Yes.
Who recognize that if we didn't protect ourselves, then it wasn't going to happen. So yeah, we might need to do that again.
Yep.
Susu, Pat.
And it's not those pyramid schemes that some of these churches have been getting involved in.
No. Susu is different.
Susu's different. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Look at Susu. All right, guys. Well, it's been a great show. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you back here next Sunday. Same place, same time. Because if it's Sunday,
it's the day before Monday.
When will he fall in line?
What you need to do, anytime you say that, just mute his.
See what else comes out.
It's the UpSet podcast.
Yes, that's right. All right, guys. Have a wonderful week.
Bye, guys. Blessed week.
Alrighty.
Bless.
Peace.
Take care, everybody.